District Governor Sonia Aline, fellow Rotarians and Rotaractors, distinguished speakers, participants, good evening. Welcome to this public lecture on Grow What You Eat and Eat What You Grow. This lecture is put on as part of the district's Childhood Obesity Prevention Program in commemoration of World Food Day 2021 that will be celebrated on Sunday, 16 October under the theme, Our Actions Are Our Future, Better Production, Better Nutrition, a Better Environment, and a Better Life. As we all know, non-communicable diseases, NCDs, are the leading cause of mortality and morbidity globally. Right here in the Caribbean, we're faced with a high burden of NCDs contributing to a significant number of premature deaths yearly. One of the risk factors of these chronic diseases is unhealthy diet that contributes to obesity, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, among others. The aim of this evening's lecture is to bring awareness around eating healthy and also to encourage participants to turn this awareness into action through encouraging a healthy lifestyle and ultimately improving the health of our Caribbean society. I am Dr. Rosamond Adams, and I will be your moderator for this evening's session. This evening, we will have 4 distinguished speakers: Dr. Renata Clarke, Ms. Karalyn Hingston, Professor Dan Ramdath, and Mr. Revinh Ramnandanlall. You will hear from them, and then we will open up to a plenary session where you will be able to interact with them during the question and answer segment. Before I welcome our district governor, let me remind you of a few housekeeping matters. Please select your language, English or French, by clicking on the globe icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Your mics are muted, and unless recognized by the moderator, please keep them on mute. During the presentation, questions, comments can be posted in the chat box, and during the plenary session, you may raise your hands by clicking on the raise hand icon, and you will be recognized by the moderator, after which you will be able to ask your questions. Time may be allotted for questions and answers after the speakers, and we will inform of such. We will also be recording today's session, and the recording and the slides will be posted on the District 7030 website and on the YouTube channel. I thank you very much for participating this evening, and we look forward to a very interactive and enlightening session on the topic, Grow What You Eat and Eat What You Grow. At this time, I would like to invite our district governor, Sonia Aline, to bring us some welcoming words. Sonia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rosamond. Good evening to everyone. My District 7030 family, thank you so much for joining us this evening on what is going to be a very interesting conversation. The synergies of growing what you eat and eating what you grow and our childhood obesity prevention program are so, they match. And I think tonight, with all these experts that we have gathered from all corners of the globe, we have an opportunity to really learn more and to make the most of this topic. Thank you for joining me this evening, for joining the magnificent Childhood Obesity Prevention Program team. And I look forward to an engaging discussion at the end, because I know that these presentations tonight are going to be riveting. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And now we will go into hearing from our esteemed presenters. Our first presenter is Dr. Renata Clarke, who will bring our keynote address on the FAO theme for World Food Day in relation to the Rotary COPP Barbados. Renata Clarke has worked in the Food and Agriculture Organization headquarters in the area of food safety for the past 20 years. She was head of the FAO Food Safety and Quality Unit from 2011 to 2019, when she assumed the position of FAO Sub-Regional Coordinator for the Caribbean. In her capacity as head of the FAO Food Safety and Quality Unit, she has led the FAO programs for developing the capacities of countries to assume the safety of food supplies. She also provided strategic oversight to the FAO program for the provision of food safety scientific advice, which undertakes the risk assessment that underpin Codex standard setting and food safety policy in many countries. In her current role, she oversees the FAO program of work across 13 English-speaking Caribbean countries. She is responsible for the strategic visioning of the FAO programs, for ensuring effective collaboration with the regional bodies, and for managing a multidisciplinary team of experts that support program implementation. Dr. Clarke holds a PhD in food science and technology from the Technical University of Nova Scotia and a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from the University of the West Indies. Please join me as I welcome Dr. Clarke to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Clarke, over to you.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be with you today to speak about World Food Day and the transformation of food systems. As you've already heard, the theme of this year's World Food Day is Our Actions Are Our Future, Transforming Agri-Food Systems, for better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. I'd like to start by highlighting some basic elements of the situation as it pertains to food and agriculture. There will be approximately 1.6 billion more people to feed by 2050, with developing countries accounting almost fully for the population increase. According to the most recent FAO report on food insecurity, there are currently 3 billion people, that's almost 40% of the world's population, who cannot afford a healthy diet. We are not on track to achieve SDG Goal 2 of zero hunger. Some projections suggest that production may need to increase by 60% by 2050, given population and lifestyle trends. And we know that the agriculture sector currently contributes about 33% to the greenhouse gas. At the same time that we need to make this huge increase in production, per capita arable land on a worldwide basis is becoming less. It's reduced from 0.43 hectares per capita in 1960 to less than 0.2 hectares per capita in 2050, with greater reductions of available arable land in developing countries. With the sea level rise, SIDS face the threat of saltwater intrusion and the degradation of scarce water resources, directly affecting plant growth, productivity, and nutritional content. Natural hazard-induced disasters, and we expect these to be increasingly frequent, lead to production losses in the Caribbean that are more than twice as high as the global average. This is not a rosy picture. We all need to spend time reflecting on the future that we want as a community, as a country, and as a region. And we must make sure that our actions can be reasonably expected to take us there. So our World Food Day theme is spot on. The era we are presently living in will undoubtedly be deeply etched in history books. Our actions today will determine the story that is told and the history that we create. I will speak to individual responsibility for making a better agri-food system, the responsibility of leaders and leading institutions in agriculture, and the roles and responsibilities of leaders beyond agriculture. So how can individuals make a difference to the future of food and agriculture? Our food choices affect our health. And what are we eating? In Barbados, for example, which is dependent on food imports to a large extent, a recent FAO review has shown that about 64% of this is highly processed and or rich in sugar, sodium, and fat. It's not surprising, therefore, that diet-related NCDs remains a huge social burden in the Caribbean. And public health care systems are forced to spend millions of dollars on problems that could have been avoided. Precious resources that could have been invested in accelerating development and building resilience. On another point about food choices, I said earlier that the population would increase by 1.6 billion by 2050. That corresponds to just a little over 20% of today's population. But the projection indicates that we would need between 60 to 70% more production. Why? This is because the projections are anticipating lifestyle changes, including greater meat consumption, driven principally by growing affluence in many Asian countries. 8 to 10 kilograms of feed are required to produce 1 kilogram of meat. What a huge impact our food choices have on our food systems and our environment. At the global level, it is estimated that 17% of food is wasted at retail and household levels. Not only is food wasted, but all of the inputs that contributed to its production, handling, and processing are also wasted. Food waste, therefore, is not simply a question of personal loss, it's a question of social and environmental responsibility. Each one of us can contribute to change. SDG 12 speaks to sustainable consumption and production. And one of the targets is that countries should have per capita food waste by 2030. Surely, this is a goal that we can all help countries to meet. The final point that I would like to make in relation to actions at an individual level is the willingness of individuals to keep themselves informed and to engage with decision makers to drive positive change and keep our national, local, and international institutions accountable. Now, to look at the role of those of us who have leading roles in agriculture. The agricultural sector in the Caribbean has been jolted out of a deep slumber. After years or even decades of relative neglect and underinvestment, agriculture finds itself front and center of national strategic planning. This is a huge responsibility at a difficult time. We must prepare ourselves to live up to these new expectations. If we're going to transform agriculture, we must first transform ourselves, the way that we have been planning, the way that we have been delivering. The COVID-19 crisis has made us think differently about food security in the region. Initially, the major concern was the disruption of supply chains. With the Caribbean so heavily dependent on food imports, the urgency of the situation is immediately clear. The anticipated disaster did not come to pass, but we have been left with a real sense of that risk. Hence the renewed focus on increasing the Caribbean's self-reliance on food, specifically to reduce extra-regional imports by 25% by 2025. While significant disruption of our food supplies did not occur, there was clearly a hugely negative impact on food security in the region, related to the economic access pillar of the food security construct. According to a World Food Programme, CARICOM, and FAO survey of food insecurity and livelihood impacts of the pandemic in February of this year, groups, 63% of respondents reported reduction of incomes or complete loss of livelihoods, with this statistic rising to 90% among the lower income groups. Statistics from numerous sources point to the sharp increase in food insecurity since 2020. And this situation has generated a new intensity to the old commitment to diversify economies as an essential element to resilience. And apart from the COVID crisis, let us not lose sight for a moment of the fact that we are on the front line of climate change. So on this World Food Day, we can celebrate that renewed commitment that we are seeing from ministries responsible for agriculture throughout the region, who are now reimagining agricultural development and reorganizing themselves to meet a higher level of performance to which they are now called. A CARICOM ministerial task force is operating to steer the region firmly to its priority goals. This is not business as usual. The ministerial task force is defining with the private sector how that 25% reduction on food imports will be achieved. They're engaging with private sector bodies to facilitate investment in agriculture. They are committing to increased investment in agricultural research. They're creating an enabling environment for a modernized, digitalized, inclusive, and climate-smart agricultural sector. We at FAO will be celebrating with our boots on and our sleeves up alongside our agricultural sector actors. Our main ongoing actions for a better future include building capacities for improved agricultural data and statistics to enable better planning, and digitized registries of farmers. Farmers cannot be compensated for loss when it occurs if no one knows who they are or what they lost. Providing analyses, FAO is also providing analyses and other support to the development of new strategies and policies for agricultural development. This is a new world with new expectations. Old strategies are in many cases an inadequate guide. We're supporting identification and development of value chains with real market potential that are inclusive of women and youth. We are assessing and piloting new technologies that enhance both productivity and environmental sustainability. These include protected agricultural structures, integrated aquaponics and aquaculture systems, a range of applications for digitalized agriculture, and novel animal feeds. We're supporting policies and programs that promote nutrition-sensitive agriculture. Currently, the cost of a healthy diet in the Caribbean is the highest in the world and is often more than 5 times higher than an unbalanced diet that just provides sufficient energy. No wonder we are faced with an NCD crisis. We're promoting healthy diets, including support to school feeding programs based on local purchasing and in line with food-based dietary guidelines. We're enhancing resilience of agricultural and fishing communities to the impacts of climate change and other shocks. Caribbean agriculture faces a mammoth task. We cannot afford separate agendas and fragmented efforts. We must all throw our full weight behind the priorities and the targets defined by CARICOM and the OECS Commission. This World Food Day, we need to commit to taking collaboration up a notch. Achieving the targets that have been set for food and agriculture will involve actions and decisions of people and institutions across a range of sectors. The process leading up to the UN Food Systems Summit this year has resonated across communities, across sectors, across countries throughout the year. 155 countries got engaged. More than 4,500 dialogues were held. 1,500 transformative ideas were proposed. And there was a focus placed on multi-sectoral cooperation and coalitions. Why is multi-sectoral cooperation necessary? The answer is obvious, though in practice, cross-sectoral collaboration is often labored, ad hoc, and ineffective. Water. On average, agriculture accounts for 70% of global freshwater withdrawals. Water is needed, obviously, for many other purposes as well. Yet in countries, there is not a fluid dialogue among agencies and sectors that are deciding on water management strategies. Land. There are many calls on our limited land resources in the Caribbean. How can we understand the opportunities and the trade-offs of land use planning without mutual awareness and open-minded cooperation? Fisheries. This needs to be seen in the context of the blue economy, which involves many other sectors, such as maritime transport, environment, tourism. Some countries have made strides in ensuring coherence in the planning and implementation of blue economy, but in other cases, there is still much more attention that is needed. Tourism. We need to diversify our economy, but this does not mean that we play agriculture against tourism. We need to use every asset and we must optimize outcomes for all. We need to develop the synergies between tourism and agriculture. Innovation. We talk a lot about innovation, but are we creating the conditions that favor it? Mixing perspectives, knowledge, talents, resources that facilitate the emergence of new solutions, new approaches. Apart from the need to leverage innovative ideas into agriculture, we need to assure responsible governance of innovation. It behooves sectors to work together to update regulatory frameworks, to avoid stifling much needed innovation. But there is a flip side to this. We need vigilance to identify and mitigate unintended negative impacts of innovation. But as we're balancing risks of doing or not doing something new, we must keep firmly in mind that our current trajectory is not acceptable. We need change. So I'd like to end with the question that I posed at the start. What future do we want for our food and agri-food systems? Several of our Caribbean heads of state decisively articulated their transformative vision at the September UN Food Systems Summit. The technicians need to figure out the best way to implement this vision, and FAO will be standing firmly in support of countries in this task. However, achieving that vision rests with every single one of us in our attitudes and our actions. Now is the moment to act. We must transform agriculture because, as I said, the present trajectory leads to disaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renata, for that inspiring keynote address. I think that you have really touched on the theme for World Food Day, our actions and our future, and have left us with the question. And I think as we go through this evening's lecture, that we can ponder on the question, and when we have the plenary session, that we'll get some comments and some probably some answers in terms of our actions and our future. You have also touched on very important issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic and food insecurity, the issues faced by small island developing states, climate change and agriculture, and have also looked at the importance of digital technology and applying it to agriculture, but have also called on us at various levels, those who are working in the policy level, those who are in the field in agriculture, and on us as individuals to ensure that we take action, because our actions, of course, will shape our future. So thank you very much. And we look forward to a very interactive plenary session when we open up. Our second speaker this evening is joining us all the way from Australia. Karalyn Hingston is from Food Plans Solution Australia, and she has over 20 years experience in the agricultural sector. Karalyn has a wide range of skills and experience, including administration, quality systems, human resources, and production. Karalyn has a trade certificate in agriculture, a diploma in agriculture, and a diploma in business management. She joined the Food Plan Solutions in October 2012 and is the executive officer. Karalyn, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Renata for such an incredible and timely presentation. Can I firstly also congratulate your district on hosting this event and looking for ways to improve the health of your communities. I really applaud each of you for that and for each of you for attending tonight. Food Plant Solutions Rotary Action Group is who I represent. We were formed in 2007, and we exist because we care that every minute of every day 5 children under the age of 5 die from malnutrition related causes. We care that 1 in 8 adults worldwide is obese. We care that many people no longer understand the importance of their diet and the impact that it will play on the rest of their lives. And where we are at now in the world clearly shows that there's a significant need to address these issues: malnutrition, overnutrition, and food security. And clearly what we've been doing for decades through various programs is not working. The statistics tell us that. Looking in our communities tells us that. Very few people understand the nutritional value of the food they consume, nor do they understand that feeling full does not necessarily mean you are nutritionally satisfied. Agricultural scientists can advise you what nutrients a food plant needs to grow well, but most of them won't know the nutrients it contains that are critical to human health. And likewise, nutritionists can advise what nutrients are within a plant that are critical to human health, but they won't be able to tell you how to grow the plant. Food Plant Solutions Rotary Action Group brings these together, but takes it a step further by approaching agriculture, food and nutrition as one topic. We have a strong history of providing science-based educational resources that are proven to help achieve food security and nutrition security sustainably. Our source of information is the Food Plants International Database. It's been created by agricultural scientist Bruce French. He's spent the last 50 years of his life collating information on for the database. It is the largest of its kind in the world and currently has over 32,000 edible plants in the world listed in it for all countries. Many people don't believe this, but there is a plethora of choices for us all. There's 32,000 edible plants in the world, and yet we only consume a small portion of these. I was very interested to hear Renata talk about food imports with Barbados, for example. So Barbados has 129 food plants that are known to grow there. Trinidad and Tobago, for example, have 182 food plants that are known to grow there. And so what we do is we specialise at extracting information from the database to create educational resources that identify local food plants that are known to grow in the country or region. And we select them because of their nutritional value, because of their high nutritional value. By identifying a range of highly nutritious local food plants with different seasonal requirements and maturities, it helps to ensure a continuous growing season and sustainable nutritious food supply. And local food plants are really, really important because they are adapted to their environment. They have sound nutritional density. They have a natural resistance to pests and diseases, and they are far superior to any imported food or plant. Food sovereignty is really important, and everyone in every country should be really proud of the plants that grow in their country. We really encourage that. The resources created by us also explain what nutritional food is, why humans' bodies need it, and how to grow and use it. They present scientific evidence in plain English, which are then tailored for all levels of literacy. And they're designed to empower people, but particularly women, so that they can then knowledgeably choose what plants to grow and eat that will nutritiously feed themselves and their family. Food production systems are already being influenced by climate change, and the impacts are going to become more significant in the future. Some areas will become wetter and some areas will become drier. The database includes details of the agriclimatic zones, which then allows us to identify plant species that are known already to grow in that country that are better suited to the changing climate. We're quite different to most aid organisations and other Rotary action groups. We're quite unique, really, for a few reasons. The first is our approach is based on science. It really is as simple as growing the right plant in the right place if you understand the science. We never send people to a country, but instead build linkages with existing groups and organisations, with Rotary districts and Rotary clubs, for example, other aid organisations and government bodies. The most important component in our project is a local partner. They will be established and they will understand best how to engage and empower their communities to act. They will have the local knowledge, the networks and resources to empower people and believe in the benefit of change. Change is challenging. Change is difficult. Lots of people don't like change. But what's our options if we don't change? And I think that's the question that we encourage people to think about from time to time and challenge themselves. If we sent people into a country and told them what to do, I can't imagine anything else more insulting, quite frankly. I know how I'd feel if someone came to my place and told me what to start eating and growing. And that's another reason why we never do that and instead work with existing groups and organisations. And what's more, if we send people in, all it does is add duplication and cost. So we can create any materials dependent upon our audience's requirements, but we have some standard materials. The first is what we call a field guide, potentially important food plants of a country or a region. And that has approximately 40 edible plants, food plants, that have been selected because they're high in the key nutrients and because they're known to grow in that country or region. And then they're divided into all the food groups. So there's about 5 or 6 plants in each selection. We explain how the plant grows, where the plant grows, what parts are edible, how to use those parts, and the nutritional value. And then we also explain some techniques for sustainable agroecological production, looking after soil, while soil's important, while mulch is important, identifying pests and diseases and the like. How the information we use really depends upon our program partners in the country. But for any program to succeed, one thing is key: they must believe in it, they must invest in it. I don't necessarily mean in a financial sense, I mean in their heart. They must have embraced it, they must see the benefit of it and fully committed to driving it and making it happen. And it's really important that local people do that because it ensures dignity and empowerment. We're not going to tell you how to do it or why to do it. We've got programs in over 36, I think it is, countries around the world. No, we're in 36 countries around the world. We've got programs in various numbers of each of those countries. So we have a lot of experience in what works in some places and what doesn't, and we can also be a bouncing board for ideas, and we're more than happy to do that. And I guess the challenge then becomes, what can you do? How can you become part of this change, and how can you engage? And that's certainly something that we'd welcome discussion with. So in summary, I'd just like to say that a diverse diet, rich in local, well-adapted food plants, grown using agroecological methods, is sustainable, is nutritious, it ensures food security, and it helps to mitigate climate change. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Karalyn, and we are really glad to hear about the work of Food Plants Solutions in Australia You enlightened us in terms of the work that you've been doing, linking agriculture, food, and nutrition together. Normally, there is a divide between these disciplines, where, as you said, there are people who are professionals in terms of agriculture, those who are in terms of nutrition and diet, but many times you don't bring this together. And so the work that you're doing at Food Plan Solutions is helping to bring this together. I'm sure that one of the questions that we have for you is, how do you get people to use or to eat plants that are available in these countries but are not looked at as food? And you spoke about the change, and we will want to hear later on in terms of some of the challenges that you may come across in terms of, getting people to change and accept, these new solutions that you are coming up with. There is also a question that was posted in the chat from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, asking about how many food plants are available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't know if you have that data at hand, but surely we will come back to that when we go into the plenary. So thank you again, Karalyn, and we look forward to having more discussions in the plenary session. We will then move next into our third presenter this evening. Our third speaker is Professor Dan Ramdath. Professor Ramdath is a director and previously senior research scientist at Human Nutrition at AAFC Gallup Research and Development Center. He has a master's and a PhD in human nutrition with postdoctoral training in clinical biochemistry. His research focused on validating the health-promoting properties of foods to support the regulatory framework for health claims substantiation. Dan has volunteered on several WHO PAHO technical committees on promoting healthy eating and prevention of childhood obesity. He currently serves as scientific advisor to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, and was vice chair of the WHO PAHO Export Committee to establish a nutrient profiling model for the Americas aimed at reducing childhood obesity. He is a professor at the University of Saskatchewan and University of Gallup, and he is a fellow of the American College of Nutrition, a Commonwealth Medical Fellowship winner, and the University of the West Indies Distinguished Alumni. Welcome, Professor Ramdath, over to you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to do a mic check to ensure that everyone's hearing me and you're seeing my screen. Yes, we're hearing you and we're seeing your screen. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sorry, there's so many different words I want to call you and to refer to you. So, Chair, thank you very much. Bonsoir à tous mes collègues francophones. Thank you all and good evening to everyone. Thanks to the organizers, the visionaries that lead District 7030 for bringing together this presentation on eat what you grow what you eat. I thank you for the invitation to talk about this topic. And I think the previous two speakers, Mr. Renata Clarke and Karalyn Hingston, really set the stage for me to talk about translating research evidence into enable actions for promoting healthy eating and obesity prevention. And I want to also congratulate the district for taking on the challenge of trying to reduce childhood obesity. This is something that's very dear to my heart, and you'll see why I identify with this objective of the District 7030 and why I jumped at the opportunity to share my presentation and share some simple messages. I hope my intention is to share with you a couple simple messages, 3 simple messages, which I hope will help that you can take home or incorporate into your programs. So what I'm going to do today is to talk about the strength of knowledge translation. So in the Caribbean, we have a very strong history, a track record of translating research evidence into clinical practice and to solving health problems. we may not know this, or we don't always acknowledge this, but we are a leader and we have been a leader. I want to talk a little bit about what healthy eating, what is it? What does it mean? How do we achieve healthy eating? Because often you hear you should eat healthy, eat properly, you need to eat healthy. Well, what does it actually mean, and what?
May I disturb you 1 second? If you can put your slide into presentation view.
It is. I'll just change the display 1 sec.
Yes, yes.
How's that?
Yes, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, right. Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about healthy eating and how you achieve that. And then I want to end with talking about a pilot project that we tested in Trinidad and roll out in a couple other countries to infuse healthy eating and healthy lifestyles in the elementary school curriculum. When we talk about when we talk about research impact through knowledge transfer, you know, we have a lot of information out there. We have a lot of information that we need to sift through. And so the way I function is I don't look at the bulk of the evidence. So it's not the strength of the thesis here. It's really the quality of what's in the document. So we really need to be able to identify and sift through the literature and pull out what's credible and what's not. And I want to start talking about the credibility of us in the Caribbean and how we have worked to be leaders in the first place in solving the problem of severe childhood malnutrition. And Ms. Hingston mentioned this in her talk. That's still a global problem. In the 1960s and 70s in the Caribbean, mortality from severe malnutrition was very high. I had the great fortune of working at the University of the West Indies Tropical Metabolism Research Unit, a unique institution, so we came up with ideas about, and we did the research around solving improving the management of kwashiorkor in particular. Kwashiorkor is still a very challenging childhood disease, a form of malnutrition. You don't often see this in the news or on TV. You see the other form of malnutrition, which is kwashiorkor, which is marasmus, which is a thin, emaciated child with a fat tummy. That is relatively easy that form of malnutrition is fairly easy to treat. It is kwashiorkor that was the challenge at the time when I started working on this problem. So we did the research, and from the research we improved the protocols that that enable us to improve the management of children with malnutrition. We came up with a formula which went through different iterations and is now the standard therapeutic formula for managing malnutrition in famine conditions. It's called F100. The genesis of this was in the Caribbean, in Jamaica. So collectively, this experience has now been framed and embedded in the standard textbook or the standard WHO guidelines for the management of severe malnutrition in famine conditions or in hospitals. So one good evidence, one good piece of one good example of how work in the Caribbean has led to global impact. The second example I want to talk to you about is how we have used data from the Caribbean to generate population-based guidelines to guide people on what they should and should not eat, or how much nutrients they require. So the first thing we did was we collected the data that was available around food intake in the Caribbean. We created, we put together a report, and then we had technical expertise coming together around the table to talk about the evidence. And based on the strength of evidence, PAHO last year published the recommended nutrient intakes and population nutrient intake goals for the Caribbean. And so this here is sort of like the benchmark, our guiding light for where we need to get to in order to achieve healthy eating and prevent chronic diseases in the Caribbean. So the challenge we have here now is, as I said, healthy eating. Often we are like this, we are in this conflicted road where you're not sure which way to go, the road towards healthy eating or the road towards the heavily advertised, energy dense, poor nutrient containing diets on the left. So I like to start off by talking about healthy eating as eating a small amount of a variety of foods throughout the day. And if you accept this definition, then really there is no good food and no bad food. It is the amount of the food you eat. So if you eat pizza every day, or if you eat ice cream every day, that becomes a problem. If you eat beans every day, and that's the only thing you eat, that's a problem. If you eat only apples every day, and nothing else, that's a problem. So the point here is that healthy eating means eating a small amount of a variety of food throughout the day. What does it look like? So this is something I put together about 25 years ago. And if you look at the American guidelines, you'll see My Plate, which looks very similar to this. And here, what I've done is I've taken the food groups from the Caribbean and put them together. And this here represents the collection of all the food you will eat in a day. It's a plate of all the food you will eat in a day. Lesson number one, or the first thing that we note, is that fruits and vegetables should account for about a half of your daily meal. Next, followed by cereals and legumes and ground provisions or other forms of starch, and small amounts of food from animals and small amounts of fats and oils. So again, the take-home message here: fruits and vegetables should comprise about a half of the foods you eat throughout the day, and this should be eaten regularly throughout the day. So that's what healthy eating looks like, in my opinion. The next thing we can do is to improve our nutrition literacy and take on activities to promote nutrition literacy among our colleagues, our peers, our population. One of the examples of this is I took this cookbook, this very popular cookbook in Trinidad. It was produced by the Naparima Girls High School as a form of fundraising. When the revision of this book came about, I was invited to participate, and what I did was I took each of the recipes of this listed in this book and did the nutrient profile, the nutrient fact label. And with the use of nutrient fact label, people are now able to see what each of the recipes contain in terms of fat, protein, carbohydrates, saturated fats, sodium, etc. And with that knowledge, people could then adjust recipes in order to achieve healthy eating. At the regional level, there's front of pack warning label. This is coming out. This is something that's being led by PAHO. It's also something that's actively engaging the Caribbean Public Health Agency, and so hopefully legislation will come into place for the implementation of these front of pack warning labels, which is a simple, practical, and effective tool to inform the public about products that can harm health and guide and help people guide their purchasing towards healthy choices. The other thing we can do is to educate people about healthy eating patterns. And you've often heard about the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet. I want to talk about the glycemic index as a means of choosing foods that reduce blood sugar. What is glycemic index? In the middle of the screen here, you'll see glycemic index ranks carbohydrate-containing meals from 0 to 100, depending on how much they cause blood sugar to rise after they're eaten. So basically, the glycemic index is a comparison of the amount of the extent to which your blood sugar increases when you eat a particular food compared with, say, white bread or pure glucose. So it's an index, it's a ratio. And low glycemic index foods are better for you. high glycemic index foods will raise your blood sugar and they are not as good for you. And here's an example of some of the low glycemic index foods. So low glycemic index foods are those between with a glycemic index of between less than 55. Medium glycemic index foods are between 56 and 69, and high glycemic index foods are those that are higher than 70. So for example, white bread has a glycemic index of 72. That is considered a high glycemic index food. Cassava has a glycemic index of almost 88. That's a high glycemic index food. But breadfruit and yams and green banana, they have glycemic index less than about 65. So they have a medium glycemic index. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't eat the high glycemic index food, because if you eat your cassava or your bread with cereal, with beans, which have a low glycemic index, or vegetables, which have low glycemic index. So in the middle here, vegetables you see have very low glycemic index. And if you look here towards the far right, the proteins, the dry beans, lentils, kidney beans. So if you mix your high glycemic index foods with the low glycemic index foods, then you moderate the extent to which your diet will increase your blood sugar. And there are lots of healthy outcomes based on a low glycemic index diet. One of the things you will find in most of these healthy diets, a healthy dietary pattern, is the inclusion of beans, of lentils and peas. And that's because collectively we call beans, lentils, and peas pulses. Pulses are well known to have several health benefits, like lowering cholesterol, improving digestive health, helping you with satiety so you don't get hungry as often. It reduces your blood pressure. It reduces your blood sugar after a meal. And so what are some of the ways you can incorporate pulses, beans, lentils, and peas into your diet? So we did some experiments here as part of my research. Here we have on the right-hand side, two bowls. One at the top, you have a bowl of potato, mashed potato, and the other one is rice. What we did was we removed half of that potato or half of the rice and added lentils, either green lentils or red lentils, and gave it to human volunteers to eat. The other thing we did was we made soup. So we made a soup with potato or with lentils, or we made a chili with rice or with lentil. We made a muffin with wheat flour or with lentil. And what did we find? So when we gave this to human volunteers, we found that replacement of half of the carbohydrates, half of the starchy food, half of the flour, or half of the rice, or half of the potato, the food that results from that, when you consume it, it will lower your blood sugar by between 23 and 38%. The second thing you might ask, well, how much is effective? How much beans do you need to eat, or how much lentils do you need to eat? Well, here's a summary of the extent to which other foods increase your blood sugar compared to beans. So if beans is at 0, then corn will increase your blood sugar. A quarter cup of corn will increase your blood sugar by 30%. Macaroni, boiled macaroni, will increase your blood sugar by 60% compared to a quarter cup of beans. Potato will increase your blood sugar by 50% compared to a quarter cup of beans. Whereas rice will increase your blood sugar by more than 60% compared to a quarter cup of beans. So a quarter cup of beans is sufficient to have a significant blood sugar reducing effects. We can say the same thing for half a cup. And so in this case, it's not more the merrier does not apply. So if you eat half a cup or quarter cup, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that we need to be eating beans more often. So the bottom line for healthy eating is eat less food, cut the fat that you eat in your meals, bake, stop frying, bake or grill, eat more fruits and vegetables, step out, walk, lose extra weight, stop smoking, limit alcohol intake. And finally, I want to share with you this study we did. So we designed, colleagues from University of Saskatchewan, the Ministry of Education in Trinidad, and we put together a program to infuse involving stakeholders, parents, children, the school principals, the teachers. We involve stakeholders in integrating health and nutrition in the elementary school curriculum in Trinidad. And then we roll this out into other Caribbean countries. What we did was we had this vision that we needed to do something about childhood obesity in the Caribbean. We reasoned that we needed to educate children and help them to be involved in the education process so that they can understand the value of healthy eating, healthy lifestyles, but also how to achieve it. So we got funding from the Pan American Health and Education Foundation and from Canadian sources. We conducted curriculum. We worked with the curriculum writers to rewrite the curriculum. We trained teachers to deliver a work plan, and then we involved the children in all of the parents, the teachers, the principal, the ministry, the minister. We implemented the project or the learning exercise. We collected data along the way, and then when we got all of the data, we had a dissemination knowledge transfer workshop, including the minister, people from PAHO, our students, our parents, everyone. So it was a true stakeholder engaged activity. And we disseminated the results of this workshop. And we said, look, this is what you asked us to do. This is what we found. And what did we find? Oops. So we found over one semester or one term, like 4 months, we were able to increase the children's knowledge of healthy eating by 10 points, which is 30%. We were able to prevent any change in attitudes. The attitude towards healthy eating changed. So a negative value in attitudes means that there was a change, a positive change in the attitude towards healthy eating. We didn't see much difference. There was no difference in practices or beliefs because these are things that take a long time to change, right? So, in effect, what we showed here was that over a one semester period, a one term period, we can change children's knowledge and attitude significantly by engaging the kids, engaging the parents, engaging the teachers and all the stakeholders involved in education at a very minimal cost. This here is the results show that, and this is a control study, a controlled intervention, which is a high quality study. It shows clearly that this model works. It involves the kids, and it results in positive outcomes. So this is something that we've been trying to roll out in the Caribbean with very limited success. And instead, what we've been doing is looking at the food environment, for example, engaging food vendors around the school in Dominica to do as an agent of change. So there are lots of opportunities. There are lots of ideas around changing the school health environment, around infusing the curriculum with subliminal messages around health and healthy lifestyle. So we have a lot of information. We have a lot of best practices. What we need is simply traction. We need people, people like you to take the challenge and run with this and be agents of change. So in conclusion, I think you will all agree that the Caribbean needs strong children to remain strong. And the challenge is that to me, is that few governments prioritize health over big business. And we need to have more political will to implement effective child obesity policies. And I say this because we presented our valid pilot study to the government, to the minister. The minister loved it. The minister said, please roll this out in one of the counties in Trinidad. and 2 weeks after the government changed, and all of this work got shelved in a bureaucrat's office. Merci beaucoup et bonsoir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan, for that presentation, highlighting how we can translate research evidence into action and into practice. In your presentation, you mentioned the Caribbean has been a leader in many public health initiatives, not only in food alone, but in combating malnutrition, in fighting against vaccine-preventable diseases, in leading in terms of the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and so forth. You have also took us through, the journey from CFNI, which is the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute, way back when all of these research were done in the region. That has helped us to really combat issues around malnutrition, namely kwashiorkor and marasmus. You've also showed us that that half of our daily meals intake should comprise of fruits and vegetables, and I wonder how many of us here that are present here this evening do adhere to this, because I know many times in our region, vegetables and fruits are considered to be sides, and when we speak about sides, it's only a small portion that is put on the side literally. So it was really good to hear that we need to increase our intake of fruit and vegetables. And finally, also around all of this food data and labeling that I know sometimes can be a bit difficult for us to understand. And you drew an example in terms of the new food labeling that is coming, the hexagonal food labeling, that is quite simple to read, that goes straight to the point and say it is high in sugar, it is high in fat, and so on, and bring awareness around healthy eating. So thank you very much, Dan. As a reminder, I'd like to remind you that you can put your questions in the chat for when we come to the plenary session. Our final speaker this evening is Revinh Ramnandanlall. Revinh is from B4 Agro and Food Systems. He's an expert in agriculture who developed and successfully implemented a hybrid hydroponics system with a university from Holland. The system has been successfully implemented in Suriname and is currently being rolled out. And this evening, Revinh will speak to us about this initiative and how this can help to contribute to improving healthy eating in the Caribbean. Revinh, over to you.
Yes, good evening to all, and thank you, Dr. Rossman, and thanks to the organization of District 7030 for this opportunity to talk about our business in Suriname and from Suriname into the Caribbean. So, a good evening from Suriname, and all French speaking bonjour. And let's start the presentation. I hope everybody can see the sheets. I've just shared it. I will talk about innovative agriculture, and especially in the light of my previous speakers that talked about secure and safe food and healthy food, especially as Mr. Dan talked about. So let me see if this works, if I can go to the next slide. Let's see if this works. Yes. Well, what did we do? We started some 11 years ago. In the first 4 years of those 11 years back, we did some research with our group of entrepreneurs and experts. In the 4 years of research and development with our own time and investment, we succeeded to combine different hydroponic systems, different hydroponic ways of cultivating crops into a new system, and we call that system hybrid hydroponics. In the worldwide hydroponic world, there are some like 12 head technologies of hydroponic, and for 5 of them we combined into this new hybrid hydroponic system. And what we succeeded, I think that's one of the major things within the hydroponic world, is that we don't use any pumps. So that's a pretty robust innovation in hydroponic systems, to not use pumps, so you have no electricity in your operations. So within climate change, that's also something, I think, if you don't need electricity in your operations with our system. Even with further research, we succeeded for most of our crops also not to have need of greenhouses, because mainly greenhouses in especially the colder parts of the world are used for maintaining the right climate for the plants. In Suriname, we have, and all around equator, we have more or less stable climate of temperature. The temperature is between certain degrees the whole year around, and you don't have those seasons of cold seasons and hot seasons. Well, you do have the rainy seasons and the dry seasons, so that's true. So even further exploring, we found out that with our system, we also need no greenhouses for most of our crops. And that's a lot of crops, because we have tested over more than 100 crops already on our systems. Our business model after coming to the technology was that we want to make it reachable for every Surinamese inhabitant in this country, and that's what we did. We made a model where we can reach out to all of them with training and installation. So we made a business model of delivering training and installation for all, and we did it with local materials. So we don't use any imported hydroponic materials. By design, we made a system with local available materials like wood and other things that are available and made in the country right here in Suriname. We did now more than 100 projects. As I speak, we just finished project 113, and that's a project where we train a group of people for 3 months, and in 6 modules we do the total knowledge transfer to them, and the approach is from seeds to sales. So not only seeds to harvest, but we also do the whole cycle in the 3 months with them on the vegetable crops, to also have the first harvest being sold. So that's the approach we use. The mission and the vision we have is actually a 3-way vision and 3-way strategy. And that was, first, we want to develop a system that has a lot of benefits over soil farming. So instead of soil farming and the other hydroponic farming methods, we want to look for a method that is better than the soil farming. And the quality must be there in the crops. We succeeded in that one because we established the hybrid hydroponics technology, and we succeeded to get this work done. We are way past proof of concept. We are now proof of work. That is also the testimonial of the 113 projects we have conducted in Suriname. The second thing, we're in the middle right now of that vision, and that's quantity. We need way more projects. We need way more people tagging on this technology, working together with us, and and produce on the hybrid hydroponic systems. And also there are a lot of opportunities in the Caribbean to do so. As Ms. Renata Clarke spoke about the food imports in the Caribbean and especially the SIDS countries. I think what we have developed right here in Suriname can be of good and best practice for all 16 CARICOM states, and to produce their own food also on the scale of family farming. The last part of the vision is continuity. That's after we scaling up locally and regionally and worldwide, we need to go to the whole certification process to reach out to the next standards. We're already working on that, but I think there's can be a lot of more things done. As Mr. Dan Ramdath just stated, all the research he is doing on nutrition. The same thing what I heard from Ms. Hingston is the same thing about having knowledge of plants, and especially having knowledge of plants, where to, in which country, what plants are the best to cultivate. So I think there can be still a lot of work be done and also together. So I'm very happy to be part of this whole event. Here are some pictures of the way our system works. As you can see, there are grow tables. These grow tables are 60 centimeters by 200 centimeters. And we have two models. One is on the on 40 centimeters height, another one is on 80 centimeter heights. It depends on the crops we cultivate. These tables are all produced with Surinamese wood. So it's the Surinamese wood is locally available, and with those wood we make the table. So it also is a way to stop importing very pricey systems from outside the country. The cups we use, all the plates on the table we use, and the plastics we need to get into the tables are all used from local construction building stores. So anyone that follow our training, after the training, they can go to any construction material shop in Suriname and they find all the materials. They don't have to import any materials. They can scale up themselves. So we teach them, we give them the knowledge, and we give them where they can find the materials locally and they can scale up themselves. Here you see some habanero peppers, of course, and tomatoes and leafy greens and some celery. So there are a lot of benefits from soil farming. I already talked about those. We have safe, clean, healthy, local, fresh, and unsprayed vegetables. This is a big issue if we talk about healthy food, especially in the Caribbean and also especially in Suriname, because we know it's almost a public secret, but everybody knows a lot of soil farmers use a lot of sprays, and not all of them are checking. There are these soil farmers that are certified and they check out their spray methods, but there are a lot of farmers, they don't check on their spray methods and they use way more, and they don't look at the harvest period after you spray. You know, there's a security period where you cannot harvest and still it's getting on to the markets. So this is very important to say. We teach all our clients to work with unsprayed vegetables. That is, if they need to spray, we use biological spraying methods. So no harmful pesticides. I already told about the no pumps, no accuracy needed during the operations of our hybrid hydroponics, even no greenhouse. Well, here you see some of the USPs. I heard Ms. Renata also talk about fresh water. We use in our systems 80% less water consumption and also less energy cost for pumping the water around. The 80% less water consumption is because of all the water that is in the tables in the table grid. All the water is for the roots of the plants, for the vegetables. Nothing gets lost, and you don't have a loss of water to the wheat, and the wheat you have to pull out yourself after that. So this is also the bridge to 60% less labor, because there's no more chapping, no more weeding, no more hoeing, no more pulling out the weeds. And all the soil farmers know it's more or less 60% of the work of their co-workers goes into the groundwork, and that's gone, because you just walk beside your tables and you do your work. We have 50% less disease and pests, especially soil-related diseases. Why? Because approximately 50% of all the common diseases and plagues for the vegetables in Suriname are soil-related. Now we're not doing anything with the soil, so we just put a table on it, and then all those soil-related diseases are gone. So we just eliminated them, and that gives you the advantage to have less pest control needed. And if you do need pest control or crop protection, then you do it with a biological certified crop protection. And we teach our trainees 100% organical and or biological certified crop protection. We have also the business side covered, where we set up a crop harvest buying method, a marketing sales method from our company, to make sure that everybody can do their sales. And we have this kind of cooperative togetherness within all our outgrowers. Here's some pictures again with some we call this in Suriname tireblad. I think the international name is elephant ear. That's like a spinach kind of crop. And on the other picture you see some peppers and pepper bell plants. So we are even more efficient and effective with the fertilizer, because if you do soil farming, all the fertilizer goes on the soil, and you lose maybe half or even more, 60 to 70% of that fertilizer you lose to the weeds you have to pull out yourself again. But this goes in the tables, in the water. It's water soluble, so it goes into the water, and in the solution of the water, all the roots can have access to the fertilizer. We have a higher crop, and because of lower plant failure, we don't have much plant failure. That's why we get a higher yield. And we use, as I shown you with the tables and the materials we use, actually what we did, we have a low tech innovation system. Instead of going for a high tech innovation system, we designed a low tech innovation system with no pumps, with no extras, just the knowledge how to do it and to be successful. That makes it also reachable for a lot of people. They can go in their own wallet and pay us and do the job for them, so we can put them in business. And that's the advantage of low tech innovation. It's like a frugal, innovative method. But it's not that you cannot make it high tech, because if you want to upgrade the system, you can do digital meters and so on and so forth. So it is possible to grade up to the digital farming. We do continuously research, and we do it not only for ourselves, but we do it for all our outgrowers. So we continuously look at what can we do more to make the yield and to make the workload for our outgrowers even better, even more interesting. So you have to look at us as a knowledge company that is continuously developing knowledge and doing knowledge transfer via training and installation if people want to set up their business. Then we do we set up the mini farms or the family farms for them. Oh yeah, we have Facebook, and on our Facebook you can look all the pictures and videos of our production systems. Here again, this is a training with a group of people. It's most of the time we do 4 people in every training package, and then we set up what you can see is setting up the mini farm. That's 40 grow tables on only 200 square meters. And that can produce like 1,200 lettuce or 800 tomato trees and so on. As I'm coming from a background as CSR consultant, B for Concepts Management and Advisory is a consultancy, and then we have B for Agro and Food Systems. And we have also B for Estate, construction company. But coming from background as CSR consultant, I did an SDG, I think as one of the first companies in Suriname, I did an SDGs quick scan about the B for Agro Food System company. And what I noticed is that with all the 17 SDGs, we have a link. So I'm happy to anyone want to see more information about how the B for Agro-Food Systems link to the 17 SDGs. I can mail you these documents later on, and then you can see how we explained how we have a contribution to all those SDGs. So this is my email address, which is connected directly to my phone, so I can respond very quickly and show you some of the products. Over more than 100 crops we did already. Lettuce, we see celery, some spinach, some cucumbers, some gherkin pickles, even melons, the small melons. These are different products we use. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it, and please stay in contact with us. Thank you. Thank you, Rosman.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Revinh. Quite interesting. I'm sure that you know, you've raised a lot of interest this evening in terms of this hybrid hydroponic system. That seem to be quite simple, and I'm sure that there might be lots of participants who might be interested in getting into this. You have also showed how cost effective it can be in terms of utilizing quite small resources, no pumps, no greenhouse, you know, less consumption of water, etc. And in terms of the yield and the return can be quite impressive. And finally, the link to all of the sustainable development goals. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to say thanks to all of our presenters this evening, and we will now go right into the plenary question and answers session. Again, you can feel free to utilize the raise hand icon to raise your hands, where you can ask questions directly to the panelists, or general question which any of the panelists may take, and you can also pose your questions in the chat. I think that we have some questions already coming into the chat, so I will go into the question. Our first question is for Renata, and it said that you mentioned that there is increased attention for agriculture in the Caribbean. how can the Rotary work with the FAO to stimulate and implement community agriculture projects? Sorry.
Oh, thank you for the question. And it's certainly something I would like to explore with the person posing the question, because there's certainly lots of opportunities. You know, there is a focus in many countries on backyard gardening and, you know, greening of cities. So there are many projects that lend themselves to small community-based pilots, even in relation to water harvesting. So depending on what is the interest. So it's something I would love to explore with the person who has asked. If you give me their contact details or share mine with him or her, I would love to follow up.
Sorry, I was muted. That is coming from Rotary in Virginia. So definitely we will follow up with you. Thank you very much for that, Renata. Our second question in the chat is, Renata, again, it's I think it's for all of you that I had already mentioned about behavior change in terms of getting people to eat all of these new plants or food that are available. So the question is, how can we get persons to consume these edible plants? How do we combine, you know, the research that Dan spoke about, the findings, and translate all of this to influence, you know, vegetable eating behavior in the Caribbean? So all of you can take this question. How do we get to influence behavior change to get people to consume more vegetables, more fruits, and some of these plants that Karalyn would have mentioned in her presentation? So I'll go to Karalyn first, and then I'll go to Renata Dan after. Karalyn.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent question and one that we hear often. As I said in my presentation, change takes time, and I guess there's a couple of things that we've learned or seen that's consistent all around the world, and that is parents want what's best for their children, and children are a great source of change. So we have helped various program partners develop community gardens, school gardens, and materials that can be used in community education sessions, maternal health sessions, and the like. The other thing that have proven to be very successful with school gardens, we've seen, and we were astonished by this, we remain astonished by it. With school gardens, we've seen malnutrition reduced by between 40 to 100% in 1 year. Now that's malnutrition, but that's still change, a change in diet, which is just extraordinary. So what we often see is that children, when being taught at school, will then want mum and dad to, or their parents or their carers to replicate those foods at home, and parents seeing the benefit of the food that is being grown and starting to learn about it themselves at the schools will want to implement the change. The other thing that we recommend is go slowly. So even though we'd like all this to be fixed overnight, that's not going to happen. None of us like our world turned upside down, and so if we're going to try and influence what people eat, then let's do it on what we call a softly approach. So if you have a community garden, grow some produce that people know and familiar with, and teach them about the benefits of those, and get them engaged, and then look at some include 1 or 2 plants that they're not so sure about or they may never heard of, rather than a whole garden that people don't know anything about. So certainly they're the things that we see consistently that appear to work very well.
Thank you, Karalyn. And while you have the mic, there's another question that is linked directly to that, where you may be doing work in one region and you may have a list of plans in one region. Do you make that available to other regions instead of starting anew in terms of exploring what is in, say, in the Caribbean? You may have done some work in Africa, and you may have a registry of these plants and that can be used as food. When you come to the Caribbean, do you start anew, or is that available publicly or available, and we can say it's already done there and it's already been used there? So that's another question that is in the chat for you.
Sure. So at this point in time, we haven't, unfortunately, and we'd love to, done any work in the Caribbean. We start afresh for every country or region we work in. Even in Africa, for example, countries that are side by side, there will be, you know, that share a border, there will be differences within those countries. And so we always start afresh. Once we've created the materials, we then put them on it, aside from giving you electronic copies of them so that you can print them, or posters or whatever it may be that you want. We then put whatever we've created on our website so that are free for anyone and everyone to download. So I know our view is a bit utopian, but we want people who need this information to have it. And that's why, as soon as it's created, it goes onto our website. I mean, we create them in English, but only because we speak English. So obviously there would be the process of translation that we'd engage with our program partners. We have some materials that would be translated into 3 different languages. We need to make this material as accessible to as many people as possible. And if that means translating it 3 times over, so be it.
Karalyn. And then same question to you in terms of behavior change. How do you convince people to change their behavior? You gave the example in terms of reducing, say, rice and potato and adding beans in the study that you have done. But I'm sure that we're all set in the Caribbean culture and context where we're accustomed to eating the same. How do you get people to change and adopt healthier eating, consuming more foods and vegetables?
Thanks very much. Thanks for the question. And at the risk of repeating what Karalyn just said, I just want to summarize stakeholder involvement. When we did that project in the schools, it was amazing how creative the kids became, because we gave them the power to create jingles, to create lesson plans, to create pictures that went around the classroom. We gave them cameras in those days. We gave them cameras to say, tell us, and we said, take photographs and tell us about what health means to you in your school. So when you involve people, I think the outcome is the probability of the outcome for change will increase. And the second thing, of course, is at the government level, and Renata can probably talk a bit more about this. Maybe providing some tax incentives to reduce, maybe removing the tax on fruits and vegetables, or subsidizing the sale of fruits and vegetables, or have a system that brings fruit and vegetables to the market in a much more effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Renata, there's a question to similar line. It's not on change in behavior, but more cultural acceptance. How do you engage in terms of getting more young people being involved in agriculture, and even so translating it to eating healthy, and probably the work of the FAO in the region in promoting all of this?
I'd like to start with the second part first, just to follow up on what Karalyn and Dan said about eating. And okay, yes, I'm not at all qualified to talk about behavioral change, and you all know it's not easy. But I would like to echo a lot of the work we're doing around school feeding programs. It sort of blends the opportunity for nutrition education, children playing around with farming. So, increasingly we have things like, aquaponics things, units in schools that they can see and grow fish and eat fish. So all at once trying to change from a young age children's mindsets about food, agriculture, and nutrition, good, healthy eating. So I think that work around school feeding is critical. But I was really interested in what Karalyn was presenting about the plants and the indigenous plants. Of course, here in the Caribbean, like most places, there's a great interest in preserving biodiversity. There's a great interest in creating better linkages between tourism and a healthy environment and biodiversity. So, you know, I wonder, you know, how that could play out if we were actually promoting, giving visibility to indigenous crops, being very clear on nutrition content. It's easy to imagine a nice narrative that goes with it. So, you know, it gets your imagination going. I think there are opportunities. In relation to how do you get young people into farming? Okay, at the first level, my answer is, as I said before, introducing it in schools, a different idea of what a farmer is. You know, the farmer isn't the guy who's breaking his back with a hoe and dirty hands and dirty boots. Only a farmer or people involved in agriculture could be more than this. But so it is a mindset, also introducing new technologies, new techniques. But the main message I give people is we need to do a better job of treating agriculture like a business if we want people to get into it like a business. If you want to bring young people into agriculture, they have to believe they can live on it. They can raise a family on it. So in FAO, we're paying a lot more attention to the value chain analysis, the business case, trying to demonstrate that this can, you know, allow you to make a living. And of course, agriculture in the Caribbean, especially in some of the small islands, you know, we have many disadvantages or constraints to deal with. So we really have to work on getting that productivity up to what so it is a challenge. But when we talk about diversifying economies away from tourism, you know, we don't have 10 million choices. We have to find our way to make agriculture profitable. And that's the bottom line, finding the right technologies, making agriculture profitable.
Yes, thank you very much. And I see Revin has put up 2 thumbs. Revin, the question to you is, you know, I think it's linked to what Renata just said in terms of, you know, looking at these new innovations. What are some of the challenges that you face in terms of starting this new hydroponic initiative in Suriname? And how can you, you know, get others to work with you to overcome some of these challenges, if there are any major ones?
Yes, thank you, Rosamond, and also for Renata, thank you for the view you're giving us, because that's very spot on. That's right, what it is. Here in Suriname, when we started some 11 years ago, everybody thought we were crazy. What we want to do, putting up an hydroponic system that doesn't work with pumps. How is that possible? That's not possible. But we made it work in 4 years' time. And it's all about making it interesting, especially, as Renata said, for youngsters to go into farming and to approach it as a business. And that's exactly what we did in our whole business model. And the challenge is to make, to say it popular, you have to make farming sexy again, right? That's it. And make people love it and see that it can be different than what their elders did or their grandparents did. Because, you know, we also have in the Caribbean, we have this legacy of working in the field with endangered label, slavery, and so on and so forth. So there's a combination, and almost psychological combination of how you approach working in the field. And we have to break with that past and with that view of agriculture and see there are a lot of things to do with agriculture. You can make it to business, you can make your money with it, you can be innovative with it. You can, it's a lot of fun. That it is a lot of fun. We have to really show that to the people.
So the take-home message is that you make it fun so that you can get, and start engaging young people from very young age so that they can see the benefit from it. And as Renata said, that it should be something that they can actually see the benefit and they can live on, and it can become, livelihood where they, it is a profitable venture that they are engaging in. I see no other hands up, nor any questions in the in the chat. Let me say we had, thanks to the presenters, indeed very good presentations and also answers to the questions posed this evening. We're running up against time, so I will close the questions and answer segment now. And I know that we are joined by Rotarian Virginia, who came on a bit late. Virginia, are you still with us so that I can let you have a few words?
Yes, thank you,
Great.
Rosman. I am there, and I was also very happy not to say anything because I really and truly enjoyed the whole session. My sincerest thanks to all the speakers that presented today, and this is exactly what we from the magnificent childhood obesity prevention team had envisioned that this evening would be, bringing together all the different parts where they come together, everybody delivering their own part in the chain of not only making policy, but making policy, creating programs, having research, translating all of that, and putting it all in projects so that really and truly, when you put the seed into the ground, it brings up something that we can then use for our food as food. And this all relates so much to childhood obesity prevention. And I can see so many activities coming from this session and going forward. I also saw in the chat the response from Revinh and the response from Karalyn on maybe starting a pilot in Suriname using the hybrid system and see how some of these plants that we know are edible, but we are not used to, how we can start doing pilots with them and promoting the consumption of that. And I also noticed the response from Renata, where she said that the FAO is really looking forward to partnering with us to deliver some support also from the FAO. So I'm seeing my district governors smiling, a big smile. So I'm so satisfied. Thank you. And allow me to give a big shout out to Sean, because I have to say that I started with the team in organizing this, but because of work reasons, I had to pull out. But as a Rotarian, when one pulls out, another one steps in, and it is a seamless flow. And Sean was excellent and tremendous. I have no words. So thank you, Sean, for picking up and making this happen. So I wasn't planning to say something, but since you've given me the choice and the opportunity, thank you. Thank you also, Rosman, for moderating. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. We missed you at the beginning, so I had to give you a few minutes. So thank you very much. I'll now turn over to Sonia, our DG, to give the closing remarks. Sonia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rosman. I promised you a star-studded evening. This did not fall short at all. So many solutions, so many options. All we need is to change the mindset. The pandemic certainly has shown that we need to shift gear, and it's not business as usual. So let's stop thinking small and let's start acting in a way that makes us secure in our food future, in what goes into our bodies and into our, that controls our lifestyle in the future. Our children are the recipients of a lot of information, and they're the ones that truly will make that transition. Our adults can learn from them. So I thank everybody for the presenters this evening. What a wonderful presentation from each of you in your own way, really conveyed what was necessary for us this evening. And I am extremely happy to have been here and listened, and hopefully we can take this to the next level. I'm just, very appreciative of everyone who also came. So thanks so much. And I look forward to many more presentations like this, and happy World Food Day on Saturday.
Thank you very much, Deidre, Sonia. And so we get now to the vote of thanks. I'd like to, first of all, say thanks to Virginia, who was very instrumental in organizing today's session and has been at the heart of the childhood obesity project. Also, thanks to you, Deidre, Sonia, for being here with us today, and also for giving the opening remarks, and also for the brief closing remarks that you just gave a while ago, and for really highlighting that there is an appetite, but then there is also the room for us to continue to grow and to forge these networks, and to really take what we've discussed here today, this discussion, into action, so that we can not only look at ourselves, but we can also look at our children and help them to have a secure and a healthier future with respect to eating and healthier lifestyles. I'd also like to say thanks to the four presenters, Renata from the Food and Agriculture Organization, who did an excellent presentation. Also to Karalyn, who is joining us all the way from Australia, Professor Dan, and to Revinh for your excellent presentations and all of the initiatives that you are doing. As Virginia said, without Sean, we could not have had today, this evening's session. Sean has always been in the back working, sending all of the emails back and forth, and ensuring that everything is ready for the session. So Sean, we thank you. And finally, to the participants, without you, the participants this evening, we could not have a session. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for being with us this evening, and we surely would like to say that that we hope that you can take the message from this evening. It's just not just coming and logging on, but ensuring that you can take the message back to someone else, and we can have action in terms of what we have discussed here this evening. So I thank everyone for your participation, and continue to keep safe, and we look forward to seeing you again when we do have another session. So take care, everyone, and good evening.